Mm-mm. Um,
I'm thinking the closest I could think of in the recent history with fighting games is, hey, what if I'm gonna go to the losers bracket actively vomiting diseased blood,
Oh
okay, well,
God.
there
which is
is,
gonna just scare the out of the person sitting next to me.
As an intimidation tactic.
there is that part. Um, dear God, I forgot. Which reminds me, I forgot a thing of my week, actually.
What?
Um,
What the hell?
I also
oh,
forgot one.
how did it, how did
So
it,
good.
how did it remind me?
How did
Because
actively vomiting diseased blood bring you to your current thought?
when the flagellant's will is tested, it might become toxic.
Yeah, there you go. Okay.
Darkest Dungeon 2, you don't just become hopeful or have a meltdown, you might become toxic as well. Yeah, I played some Darkest Dungeon 2. I restarted and I'm God, am I back in hard
Yeah.
on that thing.
Do you like it as much as the first game?
I love it. There's things I miss, and there's things that I prefer here. It's a little up and down. Overall, it's excellent. Um, I like. I think that there's a cost to the way they went about it is really really great, but it means that there can't be as much of it, right? It's made in such a way where it's gonna be repeat runs, which is the first game too had that, but there was a real feeling of like tons of new areas, tons of new stages to go to, tons of new things, and like overall sense of progression was like larger here. Then again, I'm not really done yet, right? But I've completed. So I'm on the second not denial, the second confession.
Emotion. Whatever.
I think they're called confessions, and you get introduced to. Before in the original demo of the game or the original early access, you just see different themes of levels that you'd have a chance of coming across. The first your first ride would be like maybe 1 of 4, and then you'd introduce like another 2 or 3 for the second or third tier. And in this case, it seems like they're locked behind these chapters. I have to go back through and kind of see like how much fresh stuff comes in with the repeat runs, but it seems like you kind of have more retreading of old material than you did beforehand. But the other one still had a lot of retreading as well, so it's a minor thing. Ultimately, though, there's new classes here that are like a lot of fun. The overall ability, I've talked about this with when we first touched early access, but the ability to work with 5 abilities instead of 4 in your fights is really really good. Like just having a little extra, because the restrictive nature of just like, oh god, which of these fucking amazing 8 abilities do I want to go with? Like some builds are you're like, I have the trinket for it, so I'm going to try this out or that out. But now you've got what are they called? Paths, right? So you can set your particular class to have a preference for this is a special thing like if you could have like your barbarian be I think it's like bloodthirsty path or so or whatever, but it's like their bleed abilities are going to get an extra buff, and then they're going to get a balance for something else is weaker. Or the highwayman in rank 1 gets a bonus of 25% damage, but in rank 3 it's minus 25 and minus 50 if they're in rank 4. So then you kind of their positioning starts becoming the most important part of their gameplay. It's grooves, and yeah, all of that kind of comes together to just be just God, it's such an incredible fucking just compelling. The narration obviously is just the strongest thing, and there's so many like you barely hear lines repeat themselves. It's incredible how I fucking don't know the narrator's name.
Wayne
Wayne
June.
June.
Wayne, yeah, like the amount of the line reading and the fact and just how much it just carries the every playthrough. It's such a fucking amazing tone setter, you know. I appreciate some of the updates as well in now the way you unlock stuff. I didn't play when they added the new unlock screen kind of thing, which is the altar of hope. After you die, you go spend your candles to get stuff. When I was playing it in early access, you would just get things as you progressed, and that was that, you know. But yeah, man, the 1.0 of this has been just super duper good. The combo system where you kind of like have targets that it essentially takes a system from the first game, which is marking targets, and then they take more damage or have extra effects. It was used a couple places here and there for like, you know, you can use a marksman to like, you know, point out something on a character, and then some classes would have one or two abilities where it's like, oh, if this opponent is marked, you do extra things to them. Now that is working across the entire cast. Everyone has stuff that works with marked opponents, and it creates a really fun synergistic thing. You have more synergy options as well. You can have a character who's entirely about marking and moving around people, and then you have your healer, you know, and then you have your two like versatility or damage up front and stuff. And you know, you could do things like that before, but like now it just gives you a ton more options as well. And yeah, as you know, I've said in the past, like as you go through the backstories of these characters, they're all great. Like narratively, lore wise, it's always really, really strong. The relationship meter as well it's interesting how the game has simultaneously gotten easier and harder. You know, the list of balance changes when you look at the things they did for 1.0 are like fucking immense. But they've made the game essentially more feast or famine. So you can get on a roll and keep that roll going easier, or you can get annihilated and die faster. You know, like it's just made it much more extreme in both directions. And that makes it a ton of fun as well. Yeah, I'm fully fucking locked back in. They got my attention, and all I'm thinking about is, damn, I want to get on the carriage and do another run of it. And then the worst part about the early access with the whole carriage thing is, yeah, they've done everything they can to mitigate it. It's now completely an afterthought. The steering of the cart, you can completely ignore it. You just pick your next choice of location and it'll ride. You pick up stuff if you happen to want to steer, but it's not a big deal at all. Minimal effects.
Incredibly minor.
It's so nothing.
Amount of items you get.
So, and then you can, you know, buff that up to make it like, oh, you get more if you want to steer. But yeah, they did the best they could, which is like, okay, people didn't like the steering aspect. It's not why they boot this game up. We're going to make it be a super optional thing, but it's not going to make life or death pickups occur, you know?
I feel really torn about Darkest Dungeon 2. I played it on its early access release, and now I'm playing it now, here and there. The game's tutorialization and UI clarity is one of the worst I have ever seen in any game.
It's gotten better. I remember when we were first talking about the icon problem and how there really was just, you had to have a legend to go to on the pause screen. You still do, but the text and message pop-ups and things have gotten bigger and better. Like, yeah, they were really rough in the early access version I played.
So they have now, you hit control and you see a massive icon glossary.
Alt, yeah.
That does not include about 20% of the game's icons.
Because some of those icons are not statuses or things you gain on combat. Some of them are outside combat things. I
went to the inn and I picked up whiskey and it just said ads and then it was a fucking yellow diamond.
Yeah.
And so there's nowhere I went through every tutorial page. I went through the thing.
It's friendship.
But it's like, I'm not going to buy I'm broke. And like, I kept running into that problem over and over and over, in which a symbol would appear and it would either be like hidden away on the character screen or it would be just not explained anywhere. And by seeing it enough times, I could intuit it. But like, one of the things that really drives me crazy is like, you get relics and the relics have subtitles like stained or indelible.
Yeah.
What the fuck what does it mean that the relic is stained?
So you get
What does that
another
mean?
you get another relic that says if you have a requires stained relic to use this, right? It'll be like you'll see them paired up with another one that'll be like, oh, I cannot use this unless I have the stained activator, essentially. Or you'll see you'll see a bunch of tokens that you can pick up in that glossary, but you're not going to see every icon in the game. And it should be all icons, really. It should make it so that it's not at all a question mark what you're looking at.
I think it's so weird that the game has an icon screen that doesn't have some of the icons. Like one of the things that was Sorry, after you.
No, it's because they distinguish it as a token glossary, and it should be a legend. It should simply be a legend for all visual icons in the game.
The one that got me really bad was like I had a token, not a token. I had an item that said it was like a blue diamond with etches on it, and it said plus 10%. And I'm like, the fuck is that? So I go to the token thing, and it's not there at all. And it's like the only place you can see where that is on the character select screen. There's at the bottom, it's debuff. Is that blue diamond icon?
Okay.
And it's plus 10% debuff ability, and I'm like, why could I not just mouse over that icon and tell me what the fuck that is?
So you can. The weird thing too, and like I said, like this, I'm seeing it improve from where it was before. You can mouse over some things, but not all things.
For a lot, anything in a fight.
Yeah,
on a character.
So, like, if you're highlighting your moves, right, and you're like, oh, what does that icon do? You can click on the move before you actually, like, target somebody, and then it'll stay at the bottom of the screen, and then you mouse over the icons in the description of the move, and they'll all pop up and tell you what they are. And similarly, if you pull up a character sheet, you can mouse over anything on the character sheet, and they'll tell you what those things are there, too. But, yeah, there's time to time where, like, the tooltip itself that pops up has something you don't recognize in it, and you're like, I want to take a second mouse and mouse over the tooltip that popped up. You know? Yeah, exactly. So totally, that is real. The other problem I used to have in the early access was some of the icons were just not distinct enough from each other. There was like 3 slashes, 2 slashes, the shield, the hollow shield, the shield with the outline, and a number of other things that were just like, those are way too close to each other. They've redesigned some of them to be more distinct, so those have gotten better. Like there's still some stuff where I'm like, I'm squinting to see which kind of shield that is, but with the icons getting bigger, it's not as much of an issue as it used to be. So overall, quality of life changes, but yes, the overall glossary not containing everything is still an issue. That is true.
The other issue that I have is I think Death's Door applying to enemies has situations that become completely fucking absurd. Like I got into fights where I had an enemy at 0 and I hit it like 6 times. And it didn't die. And it's like, that's too much.
Well, so this is where the feast or famine aspect comes into play. You can focus on moves that have more death's blow resistance piercing, essentially.
Now, hear me out. What if they just made it so, like, the 4th time you try it, the narrator just chimes in and is like, lol, Lamau, and just laughs at you?
You got a point.
Yeah, that'd be great. As it stands, though, you know, I mean, he does so through like fancier words, but you get moves that'll be more effective for death blow. You get trinkets that'll be make you better at landing death blows, or you can have characters with classes that are specific for that. So the death blow mechanic being there just creates another thing to think about when you put your build together. right? Or
I'm
when
I'm
you
t-
lay
I'm
it out.
torn on it. Like I understand, and I at some point my forward part of my brain does agree with you. Um, it feels so bad
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
to not win a boss fight because the boss refuses to die.
Exactly. It does.
It
It
fe- it
does.
feels so bad.
So what that did for me is it encouraged me to start stacking as many types of damage as possible, so that as soon as an enemy is on death blow, and it becomes their turn, you get blighted, you get bled, you get burnt, and then you maybe survive and then come and do your thing, right? Like it has an effect of going start using debuffs more, start using dots more, do everything you can to create different sources of damage within the same turn, and also again use abilities that are anti-death blow resistance, death blow piercing.
I feel a lot like I feel like the feeling I have is what people felt like when corpses were added to Darkest Dungeon 1.0.
Ah, now corpses, it's interesting because yeah, I remember we talked about those and how much those were annoying, but like corpse management is actually fucking fantastic now, and I love the corpse system. It's gone from being like it was a hindrance, and then now it's like actually in some cases it'll keep the last row enemy in the right spot so that your barbarian up front can do an iron swan and kill it, right? If the corpse disappeared and they moved up to rank 3, you wouldn't be able to land that attack anymore.
Mhm.
But if you have, you can, and then it also allows characters who are classes specifically dedicated towards corpse management, which are fucking great. Like the flagellant I mentioned is gonna take care of the corpse and blight an enemy after it
Mhm.
destroys the corpse as a potential gameplay mechanic.
Yeah.
So you can use corpses to your benefit in some cases, but there are also enemies who can eat a corpse and heal, or destroy it, light it on fire. So like it just finds another way to work in to the system. And of course, when you die, your own corpses on the field will be targetable. So
Mhm.
like if you have someone dead in that round, you might be spared some damage because the enemies attack the corpse instead. You know. So again, feast or famine increased. You lose harder, you win harder. But you
Yeah.
have to use all the mechanics and now think about more of the new ones as well.
So these are things I'm torn on. What I'm not torn on is that I think it's fucking absurd the game doesn't have cloud saves.
Uh, it
Absurd.
it really should. I wish it wasn't a one way transfer. It's like I said last time. It's a single thing from EGS over to Steam, single serving, and then of course you can run into the problem like I did, where you have the progress update and lose. Yeah.
Simply play the game again. What's it matter that you lost your
What's the
progress?
big deal? Huh? I mean, I did get back to where I was faster, obviously this time around. But yeah, no, we saw Hades solve this problem instantly, easily. No reason why not. Fucking Dragon's Crown back in the day was like, hey, upload your save and download it on your Vita or whatever. I don't know. Like, just yeah, absolutely, I agree.
I
That's
by the way, don't take trash talk from me about Darkest Dungeon. The reason I've been quiet in this conversation is because there's really only like I really want to try Darkest Dungeon 2, haven't played it yet.
Mhm.
The reason I'm looking forward to it is I hear some of those changes that Pat you were describing. A lot of people like preferred it like the old way, and the changes, were kind
They're
of like
totally
dumbing
different
this down.
games.
And you found that those changes, made it more catered towards yourself.
Mhm.
I'm kind of looking forward to trying it because my story with Darkest Dungeon 1 is really funny and sad and pathetic. Total skill issue. But around launch for Darkest Dungeon 1, I put like about 30 hours into it, which for me is a lot.
Yeah.
And so I put all this time into it. I got I was hard stuck. It was bad. It was really bad. And so I was like, I don't remember exactly what I couldn't overcome, if it was like a single dungeon or a chapter. Like, I didn't get hard stuck in the middle of the game. I like didn't get past the beginning of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And I tried, I got like so desperate that a lot of my gameplay time was like, okay, I have one infinite resource, and it's that fresh bodies are always coming in. So if I just keep throwing bodies at it at poor quality, I'll be able to farm enough to yield myself some hope. And that didn't work. And then I tried setting the game to easy, and that also didn't work. So I was like stuck. I got genuinely stuck. I enjoyed the game. I still kind of, I wasn't frustrated with it. I still was like, this game is really cool, and like the moment to moment action felt really good, even though I was losing by the end of it. But like most of my gameplay time was I was doing it and I was doing okay. And then, I would get like towards like the end of a dungeon or whatever, and all my guys would get executed, and I sucked at it. And so the changes that I've been hearing about Darkest Dungeon 2, I'm excited to give a shot, because it sounds like it's kind of been maneuvered in such a way that that's a little less likely to happen to me the way I play.
Well, you'll just fucking die, and then you'll start a new run.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
But
whereas I was like totally fucking, I could not figure out my way out of that cardboard box. It was sad.
so one of the most forgiving things about this now as well is so far you're kind of just expected to always take out new adventurers on each run.
Right.
The feeling of going like for like progressing a character up to max level and then having them even survive the darkest dungeon and make it out and have like that extra little buff and like and slash debuff and like you have a maxed out character, they're one of the most reliable people on your party, and then like you do a bad run at some point and you're doing a run trying to get a level 3 character up to 4 or something, and then it all goes wrong and you wipe and you lose these characters that you've been building for so long. That fucking gut-wrenching pain is kind of mostly mitigated and gone. But it still can exist in one form if you choose to, which is the memory system, right? Before, you would have to experience this because anyone who, once your characters are on a roll, hey, they survived, awesome, yay, keep them going. Now when the run is over, you do a new run, you start out with a new cast, and if you want to bring an old memory back, you can, and if that memory dies, then they're gone forever. But it's not expected of you to keep that same thing going and then lose all that progress, Right. So it is very different in that regard as well. It's still fucking hard,
Right.
It still kicks your ass. That's not going to be different. But I would say that like they've changed enough that it feels as if there's basically a lot of what you're describing, Pat, is like there's new hindrances and the answers are the new systems. Do you know? And it's like, hey, start using this to deal with this new problem in a way. And then, in terms of just like, at the end of the day, like so far at the very least, because I haven't used the memory system for anything really. So far, it's kind of like you can do these upgrades to make your permanent progress on your wagon be like upgrading your Hamlet. And so every time someone comes in, they'll have more abilities, and you're overall you won't be starting out completely fucking fresh like early game grinding required. But your chances increase over time, like any roguelike and whatever. That is much more forgiving in this game, and so the overall frustration of the consequences of dying has been lessened. You know?
Yeah, and with like the whole like roguelike approach of like, you are expected to do another run. I think it kind of fits more into what ended up happening with me anyway, where like I basically turned the first one into a roguelike within its like opening act. So I think this structure might give me a little bit more hope. Again, I don't even know when I'm going to get around to it, but I'm looking forward to it. The stuff you guys are describing about
Let me
it,
ask you,
sounds interesting.
Woolie, are you using the Radiant Flame?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I'm torn because it feels like the Radiant Flame says that you won't get to have as many candles and that like it's the game's easy mode. So I look at that and I go, should I even be using it?
It is an optional thing to put on, and you get it changes odds and makes things easier in exchange for your rewards. But I mean, considering I did it without it beforehand, and the reduction is worth the trade-off, I don't think it's that bad. I think it's a much. I think you can have a ton of fun with it. You don't have to prove anything to anybody with it going like hot. Like it's absolutely like you're gonna get your rewards and you know it'll be not too bad. Yeah, I see no reason not to. You have the option to put on the cursed flame as well to make it harder if you want. But
So-
when I cleared denial, I still got like 90 or so candles to fuck with, which was more than enough to like max out the highwayman. You know,
Is it like slightly easier or like what?
I put the
'Cause I know
radiant
cursed
flame,
is fucked.
dude. I put the radiant flame on, and I still get wiped like fucking crazy. It's not it's not a Dark Souls summon in a buddy to help you carry through this boss at all. It is not free. It makes the light less of an issue. You will notice like you'll notice the whatchamacallit, the will being tested, you'll notice more positive outcomes. You'll notice light, that, and friendships as well, affinities and such will, definitely be affected towards the positive as well. But you're gonna still walk into a layer and get annihilated if you don't know what the fuck's going on. You're still gonna hit the second layer. Like, you'll get through denial, for example. You'll hit that first fight or that first rung of second chapter fights. Go to like the wharf and then just get completely wiped, and it won't make a difference. Like, it's not gonna carry you at all. It will make a difference, but it will not carry you.
I also think it's
throw it on and buy a pet while you're at it. Get a little, little puppy.
Also, I'm genuinely confused why this is version 1.0 when cloud saves and controller support, which were supposed to be for launch, are not there. It feels like they pushed this version out the day it was 1 year after their Epic sale. Like the way it went on Epic Game Store, and that it's not actually 1.0.
Yeah, I guess they got in mouse only controls, right? So now you completely don't need the keyboard, and I guess that was like, okay, good enough. But it's also like when you scroll down the patch list when you boot it up for like the 1.0 release, it is like one of the longest patch note things I've ever seen. There was enough dropped in.
You don't play enough MMOs.
I guess not. But I can't believe how fucking humongous it was. And it's like for all those changes, so they kind of just decided, yeah, fuck it, it's out. And I guess there's an ending, right? There's proper, like, everything's in there with the chapters. One more thing too about the flame. When you get past chapter 1, to walk up to, you can approach the mountain. To get into the mountain, you have to kill a boss.
Right.
And that on its own, the flame will not save you. It doesn't matter. To kill a boss is real.
Yeah.
And if you do, you're gonna walk out of there, you're not gonna be in good shape either way. So it's asking daunting tasks of you regardless.
Okay. Well, thank you for assuaging my trepidation.
It's not a bitch flame. It's not. You're fine.
We're 4 hours in. I think we did one news story.
Oh, God damn it! All right, sorry.